Okay, this video will review margin of safety and sales mix in relation to cost, value, and profit. And margin of safety is really straightforward, but for some reason it's hard to remember. So all this is the difference between what your expected sales are and break-even sales. Okay, and it can be in units or dollars, but it's just like how much room do I have before I start losing money. Okay, that's what it does. So we're using the information that was up here in the operating income one, and let's say that the company sold 200 units. So if they sold 200 and the break-even is 90, then the margin of safety is 110 units. Okay, and in dollars it would be 110 times $40 your selling price, so that would be $4,400. So that's how much you would need to lose before you would hit break even and then start to lose money. Okay, and I think doing some multiple choice questions here would probably be a really good idea. I'll take a look at them and put a couple up as extra problems. Now for sales mix, remember that one of the assumptions for the cost, value, and profit is that we only have one product. And that's not going to be the case. There's going to be more than one product. So even if you could account for maybe 70% of it by looking at 4 products, this would probably be worth doing. Okay, and this is a nice simple example, but it's a good example to illustrate what your format should be. We've got 2 cookies, Thin Mints and Tagalongs. All right, their fixed costs are $1,100, and we get a selling price for Thin Mints is $5, Tagalong is $4. The variable cost for Thin Mints is $3, so then our contribution margin would be 2. Okay, 5 minus 3, and for Tagalongs it's 1. So that would be 4 minus 1, or 3 would be our contribution margin. And the question is, how many boxes of Thin Mints and Tagalongs are required to break even? So the first thing you need is a nice format, okay? And think of your product, the units, the mix percentage, contribution margin, and that will give you your weighted average contribution margin. Okay, that's what we calculate. We assume that all the sales stay the same number by unit, okay, and then figure out a cost, value, and profit, say a break even in that for a bundle of units. Okay, so in this case we have Thin Mints. We've got 4 units they're going to sell. Okay, every 4 boxes of Thin Mints, 1 box of Tagalongs is sold. So it's a 4-to-1 ratio. And then sum this and you'll get 5. So the first one for Thin Mints would be 4/5 or 80%. And for Tagalongs it would be 1/5 or 20%. Okay, so Thin Mints have 80% of the sales and Tagalongs have 20% of the sales. Okay, and here's our contribution margin, 2 and 3. So 80% times 2 gives me $1.60 in weighted average CM. And for Tagalongs, it's 20% times 3 is 60 cents. So the weighted average contribution margin for the whole bundle of cookies is $2.20. Okay, that's what we would assume would be constant. So now, instead of having 2 contribution margins, we've got 1 weighted average contribution margin, and this is what we'll use to calculate our break even. Sorry. Okay, so here we've got the just another way of doing the formula, 220. So now I've got 1,100 in fixed costs plus 0. We don't have any projected income. Divided by our contribution margin of 220 gives us 500 boxes. Okay, 500 boxes or 500 bundles, you can think of it. And then if you want to take it apart into boxes of Thin Mints and Tagalongs, 80% of the 500 or 400 boxes would be Thin Mints, and 20% of the 500 or 100 boxes would be Tagalongs. Okay, and there are some drawbacks here. It's better than nothing, but it assumes that the volume is the only change, and it assumes linearity and does not consider outside of the relevant range. Okay, and the fact is sometimes it's difficult to identify fixed and variable costs. Okay, so this problem that we just did for sales mix is right here. Okay, this is well set up. So you get your product, the units, then the mix percentage times the contribution margin gives you your weighted average margin. Okay, and if I take my fixed cost, divide it by my weighted average contribution margin, I get 500 units in total that will sell, or you could think of it as bundles. And 80% of those will be thin mints, and 20% will be tag-alongs. Okay, do some more practice problems here. This is definitely on the exam, so make sure you don't leave it out like an extra thing. Okay, so is the margin of safety. Okay,